Now, we begin the first plenary session of the day. The Principal Scientific Advisory to the Government of India recently launched the Bharat Zero-Emission Trucking Policy Advisory, outlining 30 key policy interventions to boost ZET adoption. In this plenary, we will deep dive into exploring key strategies and actionable steps to unlocking the full potential of ZET adoption in India. The plenary discussion will be moderated by Ms. Sharvari Patki, Program Head for E-Mobility, WRI India, who will begin by setting the context of today's dialogue. I'm delighted to introduce our distinguished panelists. Shri Sudhendu Sinha Sir, Advisor, Infra Connectivity and E-Mobility, NITI Aayog, Government of India. Shri E. Srinivas, Joint Secretary, DPIIT, Government of India. Dr. Preeti Banzal, Advisor, Scientist G, Office of Principal Advisory, Government of India. Okay. Shri K.C. Sharma, Chief Engineer MVL, Ministry of Road Transports and Highways, Government of India. Shri Amit Ranjan, Chitranshi, Chief Operating Officer, IHMCL NHAI. Professor Karthick Athmanathan, Fellow, Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India.
Good morning, all. I'm here for the basic context setting of the policy panel. While we await, this is the slide. While we await Dr. Preeti Banzal, I would like to go over a few slides which will set the context. I remember one sentence from Bharat Ratna M.S. Swaminathan sir. He said once, see, technology can advance yield and productivity, but only public policy can advance income for farmers. There has to be synergy between technology and public policy. I think we can draw very clear parallel for our sector as well. Energy transition, and especially in the transport logistics sector, have ability to take us towards energy security, emission reduction, and at the same time, it can bring down the logistic cost in the long term. But there has to be a synergy between technology and public policy. Each one of us is striving for freight decarbonization to happen. Freight decarbonization wouldn't, I think everyone sitting in this room wouldn't agree less that public policy is the strongest tool to make freight decarbonization happen. So I'm using this particular slide. Can we have the slide deck, please? So there was a very clear need after the technical R&D roadmap was published by Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, and we are glad to have Preeti ma'am as well as Karthik sir here, who have been instrumental force behind this particular document. There was a very clear need which was established to take the technical roadmap to the next level through the public policy advisory. And that was the genesis of policy advisory for zero-emission trucking. Probably India would be one of the few countries who have a fairly comprehensive document. Using the word comprehensive is a little scary, but fairly sturdy document which can set the stage for healthy debate, and that's what the policy advisory does. This particular document was created by Principal Scientific Advisor's Office along with IIT Madras Center of Excellence for Zero Emission Trucking as a PMU, and this has actually gone through multiple processes. The first step was input was gathered from multiple industry partners to ensure that we are not losing everyone's requirement. At least everyone's perspective has to be captured. Then this was structured into a using systems thinking framework by Donella Meadows, which helped us to identify what are the intervention at various levels these interventions can come. Post that, identified stakeholders have been done who are core stakeholder to this process, who are catalytic and who are distractive. And then we have also done outside in policy approach, how can we ensure that all the policy intervention are how they are looked from stakeholder lens. And this particular thing helped us to take it to the next level. A policy advisory was recently launched by Honorable Principal Scientific Advisor of the country, Dr. Ajay Sood, and it basically talks about 30 policy intervention, which can be structured into these 5 categories. This document available online, you all can go through it. I'm just using this moment as going to give as a snapshot. This particular advisory can be broken down into incentivization. Those could be direct as well as indirect. Regulation. Then we will talk about supply side regulation, demand side regulation. Infrastructure, availability of quality and quantity of power, and the land for charging infrastructure or refueling infrastructure for hydrogen in future whenever we are ready. That become a key. Business and financing actually talks about the de-risking mechanism. How do we create innovative business models so that overall capex cost can be bring down? We have one example in same Indian ecosystem for the Grand E-Bus challenge. Can we learn from those challenges and apply it to the freight ecosystem as well? And the last but not the least, which is most important, from a stakeholder-centric perspective, can we look at this transition from a skill lens so that we are not leaving any person behind in this transition? This is just a snapshot of how these 30 policies are divided into these 5 buckets. I'm going to give a moment to absorb. And each policy has been categorized as what is particular objective of that particular policy. Are there any global or national benchmark? Probably not in the same sector, but are there any parallel from other sectors? Then we have analyzed what could be the impact, but each policy looks from 2 perspectives: impact of adoption, impact on adoption, as well as what is the ease of implementation. Then who could be the nodal ministry who can actually roll out that policy is identified. And last but not the least, we have also tried capturing the outcome or likely legislation. So, okay. Okay, sorry. The document actually covers 30 policies which are to be taken up, but at the same time, there are few policies which are already in the rollout phase, or there are few policies which are currently in the excluded annexure because ecosystem is not yet ready to understand what is the exact demand from policy. So, and the last but not the least, I think multiple times this has been reiterated even today, the role of state government would also be key. The policies need to be percolated down from national level to state level, literally to urban local body level. And some of the policies, the document identifies approximately 15 policies where the state have role to play. I'm going to go back and so this is the quick snapshot of the policy advisory. The document is available online. We'll share you the link. And before I actually deep dive into panel questions, I would like to now call Karthick sir to talk about particularly two aspects of the policy.
Yeah. So this is a broad indication of the various government departments or ministries who have a role I think there are a total of 11 ministries, and it's a matter of coordination. Some of the policies will require multiple ministry coordination, but we believe that these are the leaders who will have to lead specific policies. And one warning for all the partners, I don't think Mr. Sinha actually highlighted it, but he's been quietly working, and he's going to spring a surprise on all of us through the Ministry of Heavy Industries. A couple of months down the line, it looks like at least 1,500 trucks will be funded. I don't think we are ready. And, as it comes in Tintin comics, I think we need to panic all stations, all hands on deck. We need to make those 1,500 trucks happen. Otherwise, government will be sitting pretty, and we would not have responded or reciprocated. So this is something which we need to keep in mind. While the policy actions are going on, there's much more to be done in the field now in terms of bringing shippers, bringing the OEMs, bringing the chargers, and bringing in the money. So there's quite a lot of work that is pending there. And one more piece of information for the partners. If you see any shipper burning, say 25, 26 lakhs of diesel per truck, you've got a prospective customer there. You need to target those people. If he's burning 25 lakhs of diesel per year, he is a go for electrification. Money is not the criteria, everything else is. So you need to now make it simple, keep it focused on the numbers, and we have to get going on that. Thank you very much for all the enabling, Mr. Sinha. It makes a big difference. And now the government is going to be sitting back and watching all the fun, and we guys will have to deliver. Thank you.
Preeti ma'am, I'm going to start from you because we have heard Sinha sir once. I'm going to go to him as well, but we want to start with you on the Bharat ZET policy advisory. Can you share what was your broader vision when PSA office started working on the policy advisory, and how do you foresee those impact of policy advisory in short term, medium term, and long term?
Thank you. I think I'm audible. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Sharvari, for calling me over here. And PSA office vision about Bharat ZET policy advisory is aligned with our national vision of net zero 2070. We know that in the road transport sector in India, as a significant contributor to our economy, it certainly is very big in size. If we see the figures, the statistics shows that the road freight sector market size was around US $147 billion, if I'm right, in 2023, and is expected to grow by 2032 to the size of $194 billion. So it roughly comes around some CAGR of 3.5% and more. And this is the estimated target growth figures. And if we take the Gati Shakti and other associated accelerating things, if they work out well, which we are expecting so, and also the Make in India kind of initiatives, all these things will add variance, positive influencing factor to these growth parameters. So if we talk about our energy sufficiency and our 2047 target for energy security, and also the net zero 2070, then there is a natural choice that the freight transport sector of India should become green. We know that trucks are one of the very big GHG emitters, and it makes a good case for transition to zero-emission trucks. And therefore, the PSA office, under its electric vehicle mission, which is one of the 9 original missions of Prime Minister Science, Technology, Innovation Advisory Council. We have taken a decision to create a consultative group of e-mobility in August 22. The panel, the consultative group consists of experts from academia, industry, and the government policy makers. And during their discussions, they decided to go ahead with technical roadmap for ZET, e-mobility R&D roadmap, so on and so forth. Both documents have been released. The technical roadmap for ZET deployment was released in March 23. And the e-mobility R&D roadmap we have released July 24. So if we talk about the technologies, of course, we have also done one more study, which is a comparative study of different ZET technologies. The study was done along Delhi-Jaipur corridor with RMI as a partner. So all these technical studies and documents certainly go hand in hand with enabling policies which facilitate ZET induction as well as wider adoption. So these were the main factors which made us create a Bharat ZET policy advisory. I think I could answer.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. And from that, I want to understand from Sinha sir now, that policy advisory is published. Karthick sir have covered that there would be some money coming in. And you have been force behind IFA's creation and what we have reached today. How do you think the platform can be leveraged further to actually bring on-ground changes, as well as using platform for further wider stakeholder consultation so that we can go to the next level in terms of policy?
Yes, so if I were to identify three things, I would say first is the scalable pilots, more and more of a scalable pilots. Because as I said in the initial address as well, that it is a pure commercial activity. We have got to convince them through the logic of economics, nothing else works probably. So that is first thing. Number two, we have to be bringing all these players together in conversation. No more, for the ideation. Now it is the actual conversation. So someone who is using the vehicle, let's say, if we have got a company that uses, let's say, 65,000 trucks per day. I'm just giving an example. If that is the big number, can we convince them that if 10,000 electric trucks are available and they are, in a way, reducing the outflow of your freight and thus helping your balance sheet further to strengthen, will you be able to shift to that? Now the second chance you have to go to those who are the owners, who are the operators. That will you be ready for this? Do you have the financial bandwidth? Naturally, there would be challenges. Now the third thing is that where from do they get the finances? And at the end of it, once we are able to, get ourselves working with these players, then the final question comes with the OEMs. That how, if we are able to create the end of the product, end of the demands, then definitely you will see in the market that those players will be there and they will be pulling off the quality vehicle. They will themselves work out how to deploy them. So that is what my sense is, that these are some of the priority areas in which we should be working.
Making business sense, I think it's a key word which comes out in every ZET conversation, and all the industry partners sitting here will not agree less that it has to be a proper business proposition. And from business side, I want to now go towards regulation side and ask Sharma sir. Sir, MORTH have always played that key role in terms of regulatory landscape for the sector. Whether it is emission norms or it is fuel efficiency regulations or GVW allowance. And I think axle weight is something which bothers everyone, because that is something which have a penalty on logistic service provider, truck owner, truck operator. Every trip they are losing money. So we want to understand from you that Can you establish how, like, can you share your views, how we can establish progressive technology agnostic regulation with a focus on medium and heavy duty vehicles? And also, I would like to request you to talk about the GVW allowance or the axle loading part of the work.
So, good morning, all of you. Before I begin, let me make a brief data snapshot. Heavy duty trucks, less than 5% of the total volume, 1/3 of the total transport CO2 emissions, and 55% of the HSD consumption. So this is the type of area we are addressing. Necessity, all of us, now it is a national priority to be net zero by 2070. Now, the whole issue of axle loading, which was alluded to, now we made an internal study in the ministry when we were trying to compare our regulations with that of European regulations. And our finding is that in a 3-axle truck in Europe, the GVW, gross vehicle weight limit, is 26 tons. Now, the current axle load limits in this country that we have, कानून जो है, वो 1 tandem axle is 21 tons, 1 single axle front wheel with 1 tire on either side is 7 tons. So total comes to 28 tons. In addition, if you have an air suspension, you get an allowance of 1 ton each on each of the 2 axles, tandem axle, which makes it 30 tons. So even after Europe gives an allowance of 2 tons for zero emission trucks, it is 26 plus 2, 28 tons. We are almost at the peak, I would say. Now, axle loading has got a direct impact on the pavement design. That everyone will have to acknowledge, because the pavements are designed for million standard axles of load. Now, the pavement thickness and the wear of the pavement is a function of the axle loading. By increasing the axle load, we tend to increase the wear of it, which would require a redesign, or that would also have an impact. In addition, the bridges being a component of the national highways, so we'll have to factor increased axle load for such a situation. So what is the remedy? One option that I can think of personally is that we talk of swapping of batteries. When I say swapping of batteries, I'm not talking of interoperability. Say 4 or 5 manufacturers put their minds together and decide that we can get the batteries exchanged. Now, a 2-axle truck, which is a 18.5 ton truck, will have a 3 ton battery. By swapping the battery, we can reduce it to 1 ton, which means that the 2 tons of payload which was being sacrificed by having a 3 ton gets reduced. So, the point that we are making is, earlier there was a study where we found out that 40 to 50% of the cost of the vehicle is the cost of the battery. Now, the upfront costs get reduced, the axle loads don't require tinkering, then the battery cost gets reduced, the load on the grid gets controlled, and therefore, if we look at it holistically, we can take care of this. This is one point. The second point, what do we do with the existing fleet of vehicles, which is again huge? Now, an idea which has been contemplated is that we can encourage retrofitment. But when we say retrofitment, the whole idea is that the mechanical health of the vehicle is paramount. How do we check whether the vehicle is suitable at, say, 7th year or 8th year for transformation from a diesel vehicle to a EV? So that is something which is being looked into with the support and discussions with the stakeholders, and maybe we can take it forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Battery swapping, it's a topic by itself, so I'm intrigued to ask few more questions, but we have limited time, so I'm going to go to Chitranshi, sir. Sir, in 2006, a British mathematician famously coined a phrase, data is the new oil. And IHMCL holds key understanding of entire transport sector movement in India. We want to understand from you that how do you envision leveraging the technology and use the existing database you already have for mainly two reasons. One, identifying origin and destination patterns so that the charging infrastructure or hydrogen refueling infrastructure in future can be optimized. And even when we plan it, we plan for expansion. So how do we envision data to be used for that?
Good morning, everyone. So we thought that we've seen that broadly there are 5 domains: incentivization, regulation, infra, business and financing, and stakeholder centric. And I think that the fountainhead of all these 5 incentives is the data. So what we are planning at IHMCL, at NHI, is we are proposing a separate vehicle class for a EV, a green colored FASTag for EV, so that at least we can segregate and we can know what is happening, where they are concentrated, where they are moving, and how all 5 domains can be effectively worked on that. So we will be soon sending a proposal, but again, these all heavy vehicles have different classes, 2XL, 3XL, 5XL. So a little thought process has to be put on it. And also, once we segregate these vehicles, we can incentivize in terms of the toll also. The toll division is very actively thinking on the toll concessions on electric vehicles. And the problem presently is how a toll plaza ETC infrastructure will identify it. So a FASTag, a separate FASTag, is a very, very simple and effective solution for that. So we'll be soon sending a proposal there. And other things, infra, as far as NHI is concerned, we are already very progressively thinking on the electric vehicle infra. So all the wayside amenities presently being planned in green corridors, they have a separate e-charging facilities and electric vehicle, other infrastructure what is thought. Secondly, on the emissions point of view, we are already proceeding with the multi-lane free flow and GNSS-based tolling. So all the stopped and emissions, which largely contributes to localized pollution, will be greatly reduced. So I think very soon we'll be going ahead with a separate FASTags for electric vehicles.
If there are logistics service providers in the room, that last sentence is like music to ears. So we are going to work and ask more questions on that. But now I want to go to Srinivas, sir. Sir, if you wish to go towards freight decarbonization and literally going back to the fundamentals, avoid, shift and improve. We want to avoid number of ton kilometer which are run. As much as possible, shift to the already electrified rail. And then last mile, first mile, in between, which is not possible to go on, avoid and shift, we will have to improve, which is, as on date today, going to zero-emission truck. But all this has to be in sync with each other. Even if we are talking about multimodality, it has to be in sync. And I think DPIIT hold that fort to create logistic multimodality network, and PM Gati Shakti ULIP work which happening under your leadership is making that happen. We want to ask you that how this superimposition of electrification will be happening along with multimodality, and you are also holding fort for inter-ministerial coordination at the union level, but not only that, even at a state level coordination, because most of these projects also come at a state level. We want to understand from you how that interconnections are happening among all these decarbonization talks.
Thank you very much, madam. Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I want to congratulate NITI Aayog and WRI for celebrating this 2 years of electric freight accelerator for sustainable transport. It's a very good initiative what they have taken. Now, as Madam asked, I am looking after the two verticals in the DPIIT, that is the PM Gati Shakti and the logistics. So PM Gati Shakti, basically, there's a vision of the Honorable Prime Minister to see that all the whatever infrastructure is built across the country, they are connecting to the various economic zones, have got the multimodal connectivity. And for this, all the assets, whether the road, rail, forest, electricity, power, hospitals, everything is mapped on a single portal. And based on that, every planning is evaluated on that portal, and we are coming to the what are the last mile and the first mile connectivity gaps. We are evaluating on that portal, then only the work gets further sanctioned, it's taken for sanction. As far as the logistics is concerned, our main aim is to reduce the logistic cost and improve the logistic efficiency. And as a part of the national logistic policy, one of the main agenda is to reduce this greenhouse gas emissions. Now, talking about the initiative which we are doing, as Sudhendu sir has pointed out, that first we have to identify which are the high density routes on which we are going to employ on this EV, which are our basically the demand creator. So once we have mapped all the infrastructure, and through ULIP we are able to get the fast tag data and the GSTN data of the e-way bill and all that. With that, we are able to make out which are the routes which are congested and that. And so with that, we can work out where which sections we can deploy this e-way. So as in his initial address, Sudhendu sir has correctly pointed out that basically whatever EV we are trying to create electric vehicles, the demand has to be shown. Ultimately, there is if there is no demand, then there's no question of the supply. So the demand has to be generated. For that, we have to basically show the focus that how much it will be having the saving in terms of fuel. I come from a railway background, and you will be happy to note that 99% of the track, Indian Railway, is completely electrified. And that is leading to a saving of more than 5,000 crores annually on the diesel. So we have to take this point to the various whoever are the demand generators, that is the logistic owners, truck operators, fleet operators, that in the long run, this is going to benefit you, benefit the environment. Like we are all having smartwatches, smartphones. Nobody asked us to buy that. Basically, we only generated the demand by having a feel of that. So basically, the demand generation has to be come from us, and then only we will be able to go ahead with that. So whatever for that, Madam, logistic division has been associated with the even the Ministry of Heavy Industries also for making the various policies. So we are also involved with all the stakeholders, man. So if any policy incentives or whatever required, so we will be happy to associate with that, madam. Thank you, madam.
Sir, thank you so much. And I'm going to now go to Karthick, sir. Sir, in your view, what should be the immediate next steps for advancing the policies on ZET after the policy advisory work, which Project Management Unit of IIT Madras have done, and how they will be streamlined to ensure timely adoption?
Yeah, I guess See, the policy advisory was prepared with hardly 15, 20 people who are all experts and who have domain. So it's not really prepared with stakeholder consultation. So it's a document which has been prepared for debate. It's not a document which is making recommendations for the sake of adoption, but actually making recommendations for the sake of debate, right? So the first part is actually dissemination. So this policy advisory has to be disseminated successfully. And after that, in fact, in parallel to that, I think the 30 recommendations have to be ruthlessly assessed for impact. How is it going to impact? If something is not worthwhile, it should be dropped. And if something is going to be extremely impactful and there is good reason to back it, it should see phenomenal amount of focus. If you noticed in the pie chart, most of the ministries have only 1 or 2 policies. It's only 3 departments which have about 5 or 6. So it's fairly easy to distribute this. So we need to disseminate and do an impact assessment first. And then the debate starts. A debate without doing impact assessment is a waste of time. So you need to complete the impact assessment. And then you have a debate. I think eFast is a superb platform for that, and MHI is a nodal agency for that. It should be quite easy. And in the debate, we should be open to deletions, additions, and modifications, right? This is a starting document, and it is the first of its kind for any mobility initiative in the country. So it's going to take a lot of people to contribute. After that, I think it can go into the ministries for actual policy making and getting public feedback and then notification. I think that would make it faster, even though it's laborious, right? It sounds very boring, but actually you'll end up implementing the policies much faster if you go through this.
Sir, thank you so much. So the key words is dissemination and add, delete, modify. And with that, I'm gonna come back to you, Preeti ma'am. So interministerial coordination, impact assessment, the process what Karthik sir have explained. Because PSA was at the center point to make this document, we want to understand more from you. How do you think the PSA will be supporting these all processes, and mainly from an interministerial collaboration perspective as well, because you sit at the intersection of all ministries as well.
Sharvari, your question itself answers that we sit at the intersection of all the ministries and departments. PSA office, with its broad mandate and our advisory role as part of the top executive office of Government of India, it's important for us that we facilitate this kind of transitions which are aligned with the national missions and visions of the country. And therefore, it's important for the PSA office to facilitate further discussions and consultations across different stakeholders, may it be the government or even all other stakeholders as well. And I congratulate NITI Aayog for today's session. This is the first big step towards such consultations. And the office is very much in support to such initiatives, to facilitate and support all these kind of initiatives. It's very important that we need to have a whole of government approach towards ZET induction. We know that zero emission trucks, its induction and the wider adoption will involve many stakeholder ministries and departments, including the state government. And therefore, it's very important the government takes a common perspective towards ZET and to facilitate this kind of perception building, not only in the government departments, but also across all the stakeholders, and also giving a right kind of message to OEMs and everyone that government is serious about this and what is the government's view towards this. So for these kind of things, for the right kind of message transition, and as well as creating whole of government approach, PSA office is very much willing to support eFast as well as all other initiatives of various ministries and departments. Nice.
Ma'am, thank you so much. And with that, I have another round of question for KC Sharma, sir. Sir, the role of alternative fuel refueling infrastructure. We are talking about charging infrastructure today, and when hydrogen picks up, we'll be focusing on hydrogen refueling as well. That has a very key role for overall adoption of zero-emission trucking. And MORTH has that crucial role for making wayside amenities through NHI, etc. So we want to understand what provisions you envisage for alternative fuel infrastructure development so that we have a smoother transition to zero-emission trucking.
Ma'am, in my opinion, NHI representative is very much here. So, in the wayside amenities, which is a part of the highway building development program, refueling facilities are being planned, but what are the exact numbers? He probably would be in a better position to give us or share us.
Around 300 plus WSAs have been already planned, and we are readily giving permissions on the existing retail outlets, petrol pumps, to have the e-facilities because they are hardly changing the entry exits. So we are also facilitating that. But majorly we have a dedicated facility at the wayside amenities to have the electric charging facility.
We are almost reaching towards end of this panel, and I want to I can start from there. We have spoken how policies can play a big role, but at the same time, industry also need to support this transition. Without that, it won't happen. One common question to all of you, starting from Karthick sir, that side, what are expectations from industry so that adoption at scale can be seen? 2 years back when we launched eFast, we were talking we should do pilots. Now we have transitioned from that pilot discussion to adoption at scale discussion. How do you think industry can step up and then policy can react to it as well?
I think we need to just remember that this is a money-making business. So this is not about private passenger transport, etc. And I come from the truck industry, and I was part of the team which grew market share in Ashok Leyland by 8%. There were only 2 rules that customers had, truck operators. Make money continuously. This is important for them to sustain business, right? I think if pilot is a way of getting there, what needs to be central is the operator of the truck. He needs to win. And if we design the entire process around that, industries, government policy, infrastructure, everything will fall in line. And where we need to kind of overlook his preferences is in terms of regulation, safety, etc. Both safety for himself as well as for the public. So that's where the others have a role. Otherwise, I think we treat him as king, the owner of the truck, and we do everything that he needs. Things will fall in line automatically.
Can I ask you one more additional question? COZET have actually played a very crucial role, not only in policy advisory as a project management unit, but R&D roadmap for country, electric mobility roadmap. You're also working on safety. You're also working on skilling. What are the further plans on the plate for COZET? Plus, how do you think that Center of Excellence like COZET at IIT Madras can accelerate adoption further? Upcoming initiatives, sir.
Yeah, COZET handles almost all sides, right? So it's not about the technical part alone, and the e-mobility R&D roadmap is actually a bigger roadmap. It's for the entire e-mobility ecosystem, where truck is part of the objective, and one such area will be research into safe trucking for hazardous chemicals and hazardous goods, etc. Right now, for some of the applications, CNG is not permitted, only diesel is permitted. So there is a reason for this. And we cannot jeopardize that segment for electrification. So we need to come up with technical solutions which will take care of those concerns, fundamental safety concerns. COSET is working on policy. It's working on pilots right now. All of us are panicking in COSET at least, because once the FAME incentive is announced, there's really no reason for not buying and selling trucks, right? We need to get our act together. So a significant number of people are working on pilots. Skilling is required. Outreach is an important part. So the first round, Shakti did a phenomenal job of reaching out to the northern belt of people for trucks. Now the same thing is being duplicated across the country by COSET, and where we are targeting truck drivers, pump operators, truck operator associations. We need them to start. They've seen too many of these WhatsApp University fires. So they need to understand the truth, right? And we need to give them objective information. So COSET is doing it. The director of IIT Madras himself has recorded and disseminated information. So COSET is essentially working on all these fronts. But the primary trigger, which is the subsidy, is starting. And now we need to make it happen. So pilots is the focus today. I think everybody should leave the meeting with pilots only in their minds. Yeah.
Okay, so one key takeaway from Karthick sir for industry players is pilot only, pilot at scale. Sir, what do you expect from industry?
Just carry forward from sir that he has to be a operator, has to be treated as a king. There should be constant incentivization, because transport sector is a very cutthroat competition. Even business is in paisas, not rupees. And we can see a lot of startups coming in this ecosystem. So incentivization will play, and we have to reduce the cost. So the policy should aim how we can incentivize and constantly incentivize. And one way which IHMCL ministry with the patronage of ministry can play is the toll cost. Presently the toll cost comes to around 8 to 9% of the total expenditure. So even though it is a very small cost, but still if we can incentivize in that way with the patronage of ministry, we can encourage people to come in that domain. And certainly a free flow for a electric vehicle will further incentivize, which we are already doing, we are already in process.
Srinivas sir, what is your expectation? What industry should do now?
First, I forgot to answer one question last time you asked regarding the state policy, states, madam. Already 26 states have formulated their state's logistic policy, in which the EV they have mentioned is the forefront of that policy, madam. Then regarding, madam, industry, what we expect from the industry is they should, the equipment, whatever they employ, trucks and whatever component they employ, they should be of proper standards, madam. The most important is the battery, which we have already referred. That should be of very, very high standard, because ultimately for that only it will, the downtime of the truck will depend on that. So, madam, our only thing is there should be some proper standardization of the various components which are used as part of the EV, and whatever they should have a proper servicing policy for that. They should provide the proper OEM support for the vehicle, madam. That's all.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to Sinha, sir. One keyword which came is dissemination. We want to understand also your vision along with what we expect from industry, and you have at multiple forums you have mentioned, but also your vision, how do we use platform like eFast for further dissemination of policy?
So you see, Sharvari, when you go to a policy maker, let's try to position yourself in his position, see. So what does a policymaker want to know? If you tell him that 2070, this is how it is going to be a triangle, those alignment he is not interested in. The most solid logic with which you can convince him is, how many clean kilometers you have contributed? Or how much of fuel oil you have been able to save, gasoline you have been able to. What was the value of it? So, and of course, the multiplier impact. Only these 4 things will make him think. For example, let's assume that 250 trucks they have run for this particular year. And the way Karthick has been explaining that 25 to 30 lakh rupees are spent for fuel consumption of each of the truck. If you tell a policymaker that, you see, we ran 250 trucks without your support, and through this we were able to save some 65 crore rupees for the government of India. Now this creates the spark in his head that, okay, if 250 can create in 1 year 665 crore rupees, had it been 250,000 for 10 years, what a massive amount it is able to create. So we have to see that what exactly is the one that will help him start on the thinking mode, so that you can, draw concessions and all those things. That has to be crafted. Yes.
Preeti ma'am.
Yeah, so I can't agree more than what Sinha ji has spoken about. I think it's a collective responsibility to make it work. Combination of top-down and bottom-up. So the regulations and policies on one side, and the commercial aspects and technical and techno-commercial things to make it happen is a combination which will actually create the right recipe.
In my personal opinion, what the industry must be looking for product development would be policy clarity along with surge in demand. How demand is going to accelerate. Now, with some interventions that the policy clarity which has come out, and with some initiatives of the government from my ministry side, like zero permit vehicles, EV will be zero permit vehicles, and registration, and some state governments coming up with reduced or in some cases zero road tax and all that. These are some of the initiatives which will boost demand, in my opinion. But my only request would be that while we develop products, we must be extremely careful about the safety element. One single incident of safety mishap would erode the confidence in the technology per se. So we must be mindful of the fact and try to work in that direction. Thank you.
With that, I want to first thank you all my panelists, and we have few minutes reserved for question answers. So yeah, we can start. Can someone get mic to sir? Sir, if you can mention to whom you are directing your question, that will be easy.
I am Sunil Bhatnagar from IPL Tech Electric, Murugupa Group Company. We are manufacturers of zero-emission trucks for last 2 years in the heavy-duty category of 55 ton. My question is mainly related to toll and octroi, because demand incentive, we are very hopeful that we will come with something in coming years. But for toll, we are wasting a lot of time, and it should be an indirect incentive to the electric vehicle owners. There should not be any toll like you suggested for a FASTag. I think slightly going forward, we can have a green channel also for them, a separate entry gate for the electric vehicles to pass out early, so that they don't waste their batteries there in waiting time. And similarly, in octroi, we are wasting a lot of money. Some of our trucks are running, and we are wasting around 5,000 to 7,000 rupees per day in octroi, and a lot of time is wasted there. So if we can have some policies on this thing, then it will be excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. As I told, the first thing we should do is we have to identify the electric vehicles through the existing ETC infrastructure. So that way we are already ahead, moving ahead. And as I told, ministry is very actively thinking on to give incentives to the electric vehicle, all category, including the electric cars. So the policy is, I think, already in pipeline at the ministry level.
Sir, I'm Sushil Madan from DHL Express. I am from the user side. So two things on the safety and security. Not on the freight vehicles, but on the first mile and last mile small vehicles also. So one is then vehicles are moving on highways. Nowadays there is a lot of robbery cases are happening. If we can have some alarm system which is connected to the nearby police and all, so that also increases the security and safety of the vehicles. Another point is on very small this thing, but I think it's playing a major role. Two-wheelers, e-two-wheelers. Now the food delivery and there are a lot of delivery boys, girls on the road. They are moving 24/7. There is no corporate insurance policy available in the market for them. So these 2 points I want to answer.
I was not able sir, we were not able to hear question clearly, at least on the stage.
One is safety and security of the trucks moving on highways. So that point I want to understand what OEMs and the government, from the government side, we are doing on that. Because if there is, just a suggestion, if there is some alarm linked to the police stations so that within 10-15 minutes support reaches to the trucks.
So probably needs about half an hour of explanation, so we can handle it offline. But rest assured, there are two sets of regulations. One is on the infrastructure, right? So if you are doing it in a petrol pump, there are PESO regulations for all this. So I'm talking about regulations in place. If you talk about enforcement, we will leave it outside. So right now, what are the rules that are there is what we can talk about. So you've got regulations for these. And once you reach the 700 volt charging infrastructure, there will be additional regulations which will come from the Ministry of Power, right? And for the vehicles itself, elaborate laws are there all over the world, and India is no exception. So whether it's the battery safety, whether it's the high voltage safety, etc., elaborate. I'm sure RCG will talk about it, KCG will talk about it at least for 3 hours if you allow him to. It's part of CMVR regulations. There's no avoiding it. And mercifully in India, OEM compliance to safety regulation is superb. So there are no shortcuts which are taken like some other countries. So I think we have set regulations. There is more to be done, right? This is a new ecosystem. So you can think ahead, but you can't think of everything. So as you go along, if you notice CMVR and MRTH, they have modified the AAS standards 6 times already in the last 3 years. The reason is they are constantly watching what's happening and what's not happening, and they are updating the safety regulation in the context of India. So it's not just something which comes from abroad. So very crucial area, but extremely well taken care of by the Government of India.
Thank you, sir. Another point
and
was...
for two-wheelers, I guess this is a truck session, so we will handle it later in some other time.
Thank you.
Do we? Yeah. Sir, give me a minute. We'll get mic to you.
Morning, I'm Pramod Sharma from Sun Mobility. Sir, when you're talking, progressing from piloting to scaling, I think one of the biggest challenges is having the power of steam power infrastructure on the highways. If you look at, there are 7 freight corridors which are, contributing, which are taking 50% of the freight, and there are 200 intercity tourist bus destinations in the country. So if you put together, I think 2,500 to 3,000 kilometers of distance, which is covered by all the buses, mostly which are traveling, and 50% of the freight. Can government look at creating this infrastructure for charging as well as for swapping, along with the NHLV, who has the land available, it will go a big way in electrification. I think 50% electrification of the HEV segment can be achieved if right funds are used in a focused manner. That's a suggestion.
Ji, sir, you want to take that?
Can you repeat the last part of it?
I was just saying whether can we have 2,500 crore for the infrastructure development, because on the highways, getting upstream power is a big challenge, and no startup company or any company can put up that kind of infrastructure on the highways.
See, the wayside amenities has a big chunk of land which we are developing in the greenfield highways. So we, unfortunately, in the brownfield highways, that is the existing highways, we have the retail outlets. But as far as greenfield highways are concerned, large chunk of lands are allocated every 50 kilometers for amenities like this. And one of the very important part is the electric charging infrastructure. I am again saying infrastructure that includes the charging as well as the other facilities which may come in the future, like sir told about the swapping facilities also. Because presently the swapping is centralized to operators. If you take battery from this operator, you can swap from that operator. Maybe in future, as sir told, ministry is thinking about 4 or 5 operators working on interoperability, or maybe all interoperability. Like we are having a C-type charger, it will be probably in the next few days, it will be for Apples also, Apple mobiles also. So the infrastructure needs constantly updation. So we'll definitely, the space is there at the wayside amenities and we'll provide.
My question was, can government take it on a priority as part of fund allocation, so that the power is available, upstream power is available, and also, I mean, in a PPP mode, if these tenders can be floated, so the big players come in and provide the infrastructure, whether it is fixed or swap. That's a suggestion actually.
Maybe the power ministry can collaborate in setting that infrastructure.
Well, unless infrastructure come, I think we cannot think of scaling up on a large scale is a question.
I think that's an interministerial coordination, and probably we can take
Yes. See, many states, like for the charging station, there was a fixed cost, but many states have just forgone it. So these are only due to the interministerial collaboration, or maybe between the state and the states which will encourage. So these things will come as the scales will go up.
And we have a state panel also. The next panel is the state panel. So Sanhita, you can just note this, and if possible, take it up, please. We have last question from Sita. Can somebody get mic to Sita?
Hello everybody, very good morning to the dignitaries on layers and the participants here. I am Sita Mahalakshmi, I am representing Administrative Staff College of India, Hyderabad. I also want to throw some light upon the emissions that are happening from trucking, which sir was mentioning it is about 55% of the emissions that are happening from trucking. Are we also looking at the off-road trucks, especially trucks which are into mining? Because if we look at the CAGR growth, it is expected to grow at about 11% from year 2024 to 2031, which is accounting for a global average of 2 to 3% of CO2 emissions. So are we also looking at off-road trucks as well in the policy?
To answer your question in 2 parts, see, there are pure on-road vehicles. There are vehicles which have both on-road as well as off-road function. And there is the third category, which is completely off-road, but not mining. And the fourth one is mining and quarry applications. Now, the vehicles on the road are regulated. We have Bharat Stage 1 to 6. They were the standards, emission norms, standards, which were applicable. For vehicles which have on as well as off-road functions are regulated by a different standard. For tractors and agricultural machinery, it is TREM. And for construction equipment vehicles, it is CEVs. So right now, CEV stage 4 is applicable, and recently they'll be migrating to, very soon, migrating to CEV stage 5. We are also working on non-construction equipment vehicles, which is beyond construction equipment vehicle, but not mining vehicles, from the standpoint of emissions. So that is being done to contain the emissions. But whether they'll migrate to EVs immediately or not, it will still take some time. Right now, immediately, I don't think.
On this note, I just want to share some information that we at ASCII, we started looking at understanding whether it is feasible or not. And then few numbers I would like to share. For a 50-tonner, a 1 hour movement or usage of a 50-tonner dumper, it consumes around 35 to 40 liters of diesel. A 120-tonner, it goes around 60 to 65 liters of diesel, which is humongous. And these trucks run for a whole day, 24/7 throughout the year. So I think this also is a very good area where we can actually look at cutting down the carbon emissions as well. So there's one last question. So there were 2 points that were quoted, which is dissemination of knowledge and the policies and the funds that are being available, and also discussion on the roadmap that is being laid out, which will be further refined, added, edited. So what are the ways that are being laid out in terms of this activities, dissemination and discussion? Is there any particular roadmap that we are looking at, or how is it structured further? That's my question.
I'll answer the first part. Dissemination is not something which I look into. Right. But insofar as construction equipment vehicles are concerned, standards have been formulated to homologate them, homologate the electric vehicle. Many cranes are being homologated right now, which have an electric powertrain. So that is the first part. Second.
So do you want to take the dissemination part? I think Karthik sir is also fine. Yeah.
Well, I know it has to be done, but it depends a lot on who is handling it. That's how the methodology gets decided. So different people will have different preferences on execution. So if you look at dissemination, I think now WRI is going to take up the dissemination of the policy work. They'll work with the concerned stakeholder ministries and departments, and they'll evolve something which suits. But remember, this is not public dissemination. This is very targeted dissemination for policymakers. They are the ones who need to come on board, and the stakeholders. So the dissemination that will be done by WRI will be based on that kind of an approach, where they will do it in consultation with the concerned government agencies. Debate, it's a free-for-all, and EFAST is precisely about that. And I'm assuming each ministry will go through their own round of debates, but initially at an overall policy level, it will probably happen in a platform like EFAST, where all stakeholders are anyway actively engaged. And so, but these are guesses from me, and this is what will be drawn up now. The policy was released hardly 2-3 weeks ago. We'll take more time to actually come with a concrete response to your questions.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And with that, we have overshot time by a few minutes. I will hand over back to Manoj now.
Thank you to all our panelists for these engaging discussions. Your perspectives on key pathways for advancing the ZET sector and the actionable approaches are crucial for achieving our goals. As we conclude this engaging discussion, let's take a moment for a group photo with all our distinguished panelists.